What is going on, my homies? Welcome to Hype Central. Everybody has been talking about this little thing right here. This is the baby jackhammer from Z-Man. So there's been multiple iterations of these mini chatterbaits. We got the Mini OG, the Mini Max Original. We got the Evo Elite Mini, exclusively at Tackle Warehouse. And now the long-awaited Baby Jack. So I have one huge complaint about the Baby Jack. I thought this was gonna be the pinnacle of all these mini chatterbaits. We're gonna do a comparison and break down, just like I promised you, a review of the Baby Jack and how it sets up against the other competitors. So hit that like and subscribe button. There's one thing you absolutely need to know, and you're about to find out. Ooh, there.
Are you gonna lift him? He's lifting the fish. Oh, it's a nice one, dude.
Ah.
Well, look at her tail.
Yeah, dude, he's got red eyes. Like, that's 100%. So real quick before we get started, I did a video a while back on ChatterBait mini trailers, and a lot of you guys asked about this one because I had it in the video and I didn't put a link to it. This is actually the Pro Point Machete. It's a small little ribbed minnow, the 3.25 or the baby version. I got it from Tackle Warehouse. I'll put a link to it in the description box because a lot of you guys asked about it. It's important to remember when you're picking out a ChatterBait mini trailer, you want it to be downsized. You can use a lot of your minnow baits, and you don't want it to overpower that chatterbait. The whole point is it's a finesse presentation. If you use too big of a trailer or too bulky or too appendage oriented of a trailer, it really takes away from that action. So be very selective when you're picking these trailers, and go back to that video and check it out. Let's break down this Baby Jack. When it comes down to it, the Baby Jack is very comparable to the Evo Elite spec-wise. It offers a wire-tied skirt in multiple colors, super cool, just like the original jackhammer. Downsized blade, you know, available in the painted, in the gold, in the silver. It also comes in some of the same sizes as both the OG original Mini Max as well as the Evo Elite, 1/2, 1/4, 3/8. Now that's kind of where the likenesses end. So when it comes to the keeper, that's where we start to see some of the differences. On the Evo Elite Mini, it has a very comparable keeper to the Baby Jack, but as you can see, there's only one metal hook right there, whereas the Baby Jack has a double prong keeper, and then the OG original actually has an embedded or a just double pronged sort of lead kind of keeper right on the shank of the hook right there. Now, this is where kind of we start to get in some real spec and performance differences. And the difference between both the Evo Elite and ChatterBait Mini Max and then the Baby Jack is head design. The Baby Jack has a more slender kind of head. It's much like the original or the OG jackhammer. So it's kind of like a downsized, streamlined head. It works really well to make that blade get going, and that's always been the super duper like highlight of the jackhammer, is that quickness with which the blade starts. You know, you cast it out, you start to reel, and that thing starts just chattering, and it has a lot to do with that head design. The downside of that, it's terrible for skipping. We talked about in the video we did on the Evo Elite, this head design with that sort of that ballast or that flat bottom. If you guys are skipping docks, doing that kind of thing, skipping under wood or around cover with a little chatterbait, you're really going to want to look at either the OG Mini Max or the Evo Elite. The Baby Jack, it was crap, dude. It really just did not skip very well under docks. I was really disappointed. So when I'm throwing a mini chatterbait, like I mentioned, I want to use downsized trailers. I want it to be like a finesse, compact presentation. And one of my sort of complaints about the OG Mini Max and even the Evo Elite Mini is the stoutness of the hook. It's awesome in the sense of if you hook them good, they're not going to come off. It's a 2/0 hook, but it's a very, I'd say it's a standard wire, almost heavy. It's not like a flipping hook, but it's very stout. What I was really hoping for with the Baby Jack is a more slender hook, something I can use. I throw this on a medium 7-foot rod. You know, it has a fairly kind of moderate bend to it. It's not quite a crankbait rod, but it's like a graphite sort of like cranking rod, a little faster action to it. So it's a softer rod. I throw it on 15 and sometimes 17-pound fluorocarbon, not using super duper heavy line. So I want a hook that penetrates fairly easy, and that's always been a struggle with the OG Mini Max, and then what I noticed with the Evo Elite Mini. Once you hook them, if you hook them good, you're good to go. But a lot of times you'll miss some of those swiping fish, and the fact is we're not using a mini chatterbait when the bite's super great, right? We're using it when we're trying to mimic downsized bait, when these fish are picky, maybe in clear water situations, high pressure situations like today, super clear sky, post cold front. You know, you're using it when these fish aren't in the best of mood and you're trying to get them to react. So a lot of times they're going to be swiping at the bait. So the Evo Elite Mini and the OG have that thicker hook. Normally on the jackhammer, it has a slightly more slender hook, and that is the case on the baby jack. They did put a lower diameter, a lower gauge hook on it. However, they bumped it up to a 3/0 hook. And so yes, it's kind of nice if you're fishing a largemouth lake. Like we're out on Gunnersville, there's big fish out here. It's nice to have that slightly bigger bite on that hook. But what it does is it causes some of these smaller trailers, you can see I got that machete on here, it causes some of those trailers not to sit exactly right. It also makes the bait sit further back. So it negates some of the really micro trailers. Like I use the net bait, little kind of minnows, like a little I think it's like a 2.8 inch minnow on there on my Evo Elite, as well as my ChatterBait Mini Max. Very tiny bait, right? It's to mimic those real small shad, maybe small glass minnows and stuff. It's a very small profile bait. It doesn't fit on a 3/0 hook, dude. I mean, I can get it on there, but it looks all funky. And then the other thing is that hook extends further back, so it inhibits some of that tail action, which I think is so important with a chatterbait. That's why I always like using straight tail or fluke style baits on these chatterbaits, is because they have that very natural swimming action. That blade sort of rocks that bait back and forth, and then it causes that trailer to sort of swim. You know, whether it has that fin on it, whether it has a straight tail, it causes that thing to fin. The further back you put a hook in a bait, the less of that swimming natural vibration that you get. So putting this 3/0 hook on here is inhibiting action. It's also making the bait bigger and longer, which I don't like. I want something super compact. So that was kind of frustrating to me because I wanted that lower gauge hook for better hookups, to fish it on a little bit lighter rod, and I wanted it so it would work better with some of these micro baits. You know, you kind of get everything, dude, frosting on your cake, right? You get the better vibration, you get the ability to throw these really small trailers on here, and you get a very small compact size. I would compare the baby jack to more of a toddler jack. It's more of a medium-sized chatterbait, right? So size-wise, or size comparison, you have your standard jackhammer, your OG chatterbaits, your Evo Elite, then you have your baby jack, and then on the ultra finesse side, you would have your OG, you would have your Mini Max, and then you'd have your Evo Elite Mini. So that's my biggest complaint. It's not a deal breaker. I definitely, like, I bought a bunch of baby jacks, there's no doubt. For that vibration and for that slightly downsized blade, things along those lines, it provides. I think there's certain situations where I'm gonna like that 3/0 hook because I can put some medium-sized trailers on it. But really what I was looking for is that ultra finesse presentation with those great skirt colors, with that high quality keeper, and then the ability to put, like, dude, some micro minnows on there, some 2.5, 2.8, very slender, very small baits, but the hook does not accommodate it well. I'm also missing out on maybe fishing it for spotted bass, fishing it for smallmouth, because that hook, when it comes down to it, unless you're on like magnum spots, magnum smallmouth, a lot of these smaller fish are going to miss it when you're talking about 10 to 12, 13-inch fish. I know that's not always what you want to catch, but I'm a numbers guy, right? I like bites, I like closing the deal, so I wanted that smaller hook. Other than that, and then the head comparison between the Evo Elite and then the OG ChatterBait Mini Max, you know, when it comes to skipping, they're very comparable. Everything is practically the same. What am I gonna be throwing the most? You know, it varies. I like that baby jack around grass just because of, you know, the old montage, dude. The jackhammer does do really well with that blade starting, and the same performance aspect does apply to the baby jack. Maybe not as much because the blade isn't as big, but it's very good about ripping through grass. It definitely rips better off of eelgrass, all those kinds of vegetation, than the Evo Elite Mini as well as the OG ChatterBait Mini Max. but I'm gonna keep them all in my arsenal because I kind of like the way the OG original Mini Max, I like the way it burns and it does stay lower in the water column than the Evo Elite Mini. The Baby Jack, I think, is something where you get a little more erratic action. That head design does cause it to hunt more occasionally, and that's the same thing with the standard jackhammer. When it comes to skipping though, that Evo Elite Mini is definitely the pick, dude. It definitely skips 100 times better when I took it out and played with it, especially around docks and things like that. I don't know if this helps you. I know there's a lot of factors, but I'm not gonna lie, I was a little disappointed with that hook selection because I wanted the ultra finesse, ultra premium version of this mini chatterbait, and I thought that's what the Baby Jack was going to be. It definitely fits in a column when you're talking about chatterbait applications, but it's not what I wanted. But you know, it's not about me, right? It's about what they make and then how you use it. But I'm curious what your opinion is. I know a lot of you guys have talked about it and tried it. Let me know down in the description box what you guys think, what your takes are, what your comparison takes are between the 3 different iterations. And I will put links to all this stuff down in the description box. If you guys haven't checked it out, we did a whole in-depth video on chatterbait trailers for the Mini Max or for those micro-sized, downsized chatterbaits. I'll put a link to that as well as some of my top pick trailers for these downsized baits, because you need to pick the right trailers. You're not overpowering this mini chatterbait and getting the correct action out of it, that hunting, swimming, good kind of downsized power finesse action. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think. I'm gonna wrap it up and go slang on some with that new Baby Jack.